feels different being on this stage, but I'm excited. So, a bit about myself. Martin Wafula, as you've been told, is my name. I like starting from the beginning. I studied in St. Joseph's Kitale, went to Multimedia University of Kenya. I did telecommunication engineering. And then I decided to did a few number of jobs as an engineer, but as you all know, being an engineering contractor in Kenya, it can be a bit challenging. So I decided to run away to PwC as a consultant. Now, I stayed there for 1.5 years, but I realized, I love being an engineer. So how do I get back to my roots? The best option was going back to school. Another motivation, I actually love teaching. So that took me back to school. I applied. Luckily, I only applied for one scholarship to the end and got it. So I went to Oxford to do a PhD in engineering science, which I'm still doing up to now. And it's a story that's, I'm going to talk about in a little while, about my experiences in my first few months, or my first year in Oxford. So I went to Oxford to do a PhD in engineering science, which has been, at the end, a very exciting journey. It's tough actually doing a PhD, but my experiences were great. Now, before I start, I'm going to read to you 2 poems I wrote in my early days in Oxford so that you can understand one of the main motivations why I wanted to come back. I arrived in Oxford on 15th January 2020. It's a very specific date, and you know what happened a few weeks later? There was lockdown. So a new man from a new country without friends in lockdown. So this is the first. It's called Unchain Me. Chained to the bed. Imperceptible chains they are. Loud drums in my head. Helpless as a turtle tangled in a net. I'm the prey. I can only kneel and pray for the intervention of the one who is omnipotent. I've never been this helpless, drowning deep in the ocean. No air to breathe, no grass to cling. My country would care better. Unchain me, please. Then the second one is called pain. This pain can't go away. Not from my head as I lie in my bed. Not from my neck. I'm now a total wreck. The throat got pain. I'm losing it. No gain. Emotionally also destroyed. And physically. The pain cannot stop. I want to cry, but my tears would fry me. Just more pain. Is it deadly or friendly? I don't know. We can only find out from the outcome. I see roses, I smile. It's just an extra mile of bile. More pain. This pain is a bully. I'm dizzy with only grass to barely cling on. I need doses of morphine, but my body is allergic to injection. Yet again, no connection. Oh, roaring sea, swallow me. Blindfold me not to see this pain. Did they really mean it when they said, no pain, no gain? So this was my first few years in Oxford, and I thought, I'm so done with this place. No friends in lockdown. I only talked to my friends on video calls, and I was like, I need to get out of this place. So it even affected my progress back then. So it can be tough out there. But then, after the pandemic, I realized how fun that place could be. It was so exciting that at some point now I didn't want to leave. So what are some of the reasons why I decided to come back? I came back on 24th August this year. That's after coming back in July for 2 weeks to test the waters. Why did I come back? Number one, as a student, I was on stipend. So my scholarship had ended. And that meant I need to find ways of footing my bills. So I needed a lower cost of living. Definitely, Kenya is a good place. In Oxford, in that single room, we are paying £750. In Kenya, in that single house, we are paying at most £200, unless you want to go live in Kileleshwa, which I've not decided to go to yet. So cost of living brought me back home. Number two, which has always been at the heart of everything I do, and it's something I've always argued with my mentors and my family. Because as a Kenyan, and I think most of you know, you're gonna be paying that black tax. But for my family, they've not been receiving their remittances, the tax. Because, okay, they receive kidogo too, a little. But the desire to give back has always driven me to come back to this society. So I always want to give back to my community. So every time I came back, I found activities to do. And what can I do? I do what I do best. I went to schools, spoke to students about the scholarships, talked to students about opportunities abroad, inspired them, talked about my story, because the best story you have is your story. Just tell it to someone. There's someone who's always motivated, and they come back to you. In fact, sometimes I get messages from people on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, be like, you inspired me, or I followed your journey. And I'm like, wow, good. Or sometimes I don't even know these people. But we have an impact we are creating in our community indirectly. So that brought me back here. But some of the questions I grapple with is, how best can I contribute? I still don't know. And which community am I truly meant to serve? Because what's my community anyway? That's a question that is very difficult for most of us to answer, especially once you've gone abroad and come back. Your community becomes very foreign to you. And like an entrepreneur who's obsessed with a solution rather than customers' pain points, I realized I needed to figure out what would truly benefit the people I cared about, rather than just imposing my ideas. And that's something I've been trying to do. As a teacher, I teach in class, I engage my students. What do you think? There's a part of what I feel like this is working well in Oxford, but is it gonna work well in Multimedia University where I'm currently tutoring? The third reason was to test the waters. And the most significant question I asked myself here is, where is home? Because is it in my village in Kitale? Is it in Rongai, where I spent 5 years of engineering school, and I love Rongai too much? I'm always there. My friends keep wondering why I invite them to Rongai, because no one wants to go to Rongai. They hate the dust, but we have a good swimming pool, sauna, and jacuzzi in Rongai, so you're all welcome. So I first encountered this question, where is home, in Character Service and Leadership program that is run by the body that gave me my scholarship to go to Oxford. It's called Rhodes Scholarship by Rhodes Trust. And we spent an entire weekend trying to answer the question, where is home? Is it defined by geography? The people who, right now, I go to so many places that I used to like in Nairobi, and I find it very strange. I feel like a stranger. I do not recognize this place anymore. Most of us recognize that. Is it by peoples and connections? Most of my friends that I used to have before I went to England, I meet them, they have different aspirations, they've grown in their careers, they have different ambitions, goals. The connection just, the distance takes us apart. Or is it where you can fully be yourself? Because there are societies that can limit us. And then you go to this different community and you just realize you are discovering yourself. I enjoyed the session in the morning where an entrepreneur who spent most of her life in England came back to Kenya and just uncovered an entire person in herself. That's the same thing. Is this place where you discover your full self home? Then the final reason why I came back is to answer the question, what next? Most of you are in the industry, but for us who go into academia, sometimes you get into a research topic and you go in so deep. I was telling someone, at this point in my PhD, I've done so much theoretical work and so much mathematics, but if one of the founders here asked me, Martin, what can you do for my company? I was just like, I'm not sure yet, because I've just narrowed down to a very specific niche in research. So that's a question I'm trying to answer and hope I'll get the answer soon. Reconnecting with home has been exhilarating. Let me tell you, like with all this feeling of strangeness, foreign place, I just love being in Nairobi. Like for me, every time in the UK, I got a little bit extra cash. I came back home because I'll just go out without having to worry whether I have my friends. Because in Kenya, you just go to that nightclub and people are suddenly your friends. Try that in England. You can't just join a random table. So for me, that's what I love about the community here. Your neighbor is so curious to know who has moved into the next door. Even if you don't want to meet them, they just say hi to you. I lived next to my neighbor for 3 years in Oxford. We only talked once when she gave me duck for Christmas because she realized I was in Oxford instead of going home. And she called me the wrong name of my fellow black roommate, Frank. So I took Frank's duck. So it's thrilling to be here in Nairobi. I love reconnecting with my roots. I actually enjoy it, especially frequenting my local vibandaski to have my favorite picancy, ugali tilapia. Any day, anytime, I'm down. Then there's something about feeling indebted to my community. I've argued a lot about on this with my friends because people have different backgrounds. I personally consider myself a product of the community. And as you know, notice right now I'm talking about my, because I feel like I know there are many stories, and mine is not the only story. There's just no one right way to lead. So there'll be different stories, different ways, different methods to create impact. So mine, I'm indebted to my community, and my story is just a testament of what the community has done in my life. So I have to pass it on. For me, it's a debt, and I must pay, and I'll spend my life paying it. So I spend my life going to those local schools down in Kajiado County, staying with the kids, chatting with them, and telling them, you know what? I was a total orphan by age of 8, raised up by a single, unemployed stepmom who was so loving, you'd think we are her children, and managed to make it out of that state. And now here I am. So you do not give up. You gotta keep working. That for me makes me happy. And then there's a shock of the return. You're used to a functional society, and then you come to Kenya. I'm now working in a public university. It is crazy, you get shocked. Dirty lecture halls, no projector. You have to go to one office to another office to get a projector to just teach your students. But should we give up? No. We must try to change our society. I've really tried my level best to create the smallest change and impact within this community. Can our community be Oxford? No. But we can learn from those lessons we get there. We can create a functional society here. So that's what I'm trying to do in my smallest possible way. I don't want to change the entire country. Trust me, I'm not capable of pushing Rigiji and Ruto around. But I can change that young lady and young man in my class. Like right now, I've said anybody doing my course in MMU must do a machine learning certification because it's just like addition. Maths, the way you learned how to add and subtract, the same way machine learning is a tool that can be used in all professions today. So just learn it to know the basics. Those who develop interest can go further into it. Those who do not, they just know a clue of what this thing is. And then just to close, there is so much opportunities amid this challenge. Recently, a friend of mine visited me from Oxford to Nairobi. And one of the places he was considering to apply for jobs was in Nairobi. That's why he was here. And then through him, I came to learn about a lot of startups in Kenya in e-mobility, the electric vehicles and so on, and many other areas in Kenya. And I was like, how am I learning about the startup ecosystem in Kenya from a foreigner who's in Kenya for the first time from Oxford? So there's a lot of opportunities that we as the diaspora community have not moved on. I'm here in Kenya, but I'm still saying we can take advantage of and still tap into them. But please, let's understand the community, what's their pain points before we bring the solutions. So that solutions come after you've thought about the problems and actually learned that these problems are affecting these communities, so that we work for the community and give them what they want. And thank you for that. The last question I leave to you is, how do we address ethics issue in Kenya? I think that's a very serious issue. And I started in my class, people are still cheating, and that goes on to become corruption and everything. So it's a very serious thing that we must discuss and find ways of dealing with. But we can start by being ethical ourselves. Thank you very much.